You wrote, I'll read one excerpt here. The virtues of economic liberalism, private property, freedom of contract, individualism, natural law, and justice are really only secondary derivations of the basic individual rights to person and property. And this is something I think is so sorely misunderstood today. People don't understand the importance of property, right? We talk about freedom a lot. We talk about human rights a lot, but people do not understand the nature of property. And really, maybe this is what, legal discovery is really trying to discover is life, liberty, and property. Maybe that was a result of this discovery process. I think this was first ratified in the Magna Carta, maybe 1215, life, liberty, inviolable property. But we've never, one of the ways I view Bitcoin, I'd love to hear your feedback on this, is that it's the first implementation of inviolable property we've ever had. It's not perfect, but it is seemingly the hardest or most expensive property right to violate that humans have ever had. Do you think that this fundamentally changes the way we organize ourselves in the long run? I mean, that we actually have this principle of inviolable property in an implemented form? Does that actually change statism, I guess?
Well, I think that because Bitcoin is inviolable in the sense of, it's hard for any organized effort to control what you can do with it, right? Or to take it from you. I think that is part of the basis of what makes Bitcoin feasible as a non-inflating money currency. And again, I think if people flee to that in enough numbers, it will basically end the power of the states to deficit finance by printing more fiat money. It's just they won't be able to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. So I do think it will serve there. This idea of Bitcoin as property, I think. Here's the way I look at it. Start with what humans are, like Rothbard did in his treatise Man, Economy, and State. Just consider humans, Robinson Crusoe alone on his island, like just a man by himself in the world as an actor. There's no other people around, just to isolate what it is that we do. And what we do is we live in time, which means we have a past, and we live in the present, and we're aware of a future coming at us, and we have some forecast of what might happen, what's coming. And we sometimes we envision what's coming, and sometimes the prospect of what we think is coming makes us uneasy, as Mises called it. But we're not happy with what's coming, or we think that when it gets there, we're going to be unhappy. Like if I feel hunger in my stomach, and I know in an hour I'm going to be really hungry, in a day I'm going to be near death, I'm not happy with that prospect. So you look around and you use your understanding as a rational actor, your understanding of the factual situation around you, and your crude understanding of the causal laws of the world, like what gets things done. And you think, what can I do to stop this? How can I intervene in the state of the affairs to basically change the course of history and to create a new reality in the future instead of the one that's coming? That's what human action is. In a sense, we're all like little mini gods trying to create new universes. So to do that, you have to have access to scarce resources, tools that help you do these things. Like, if I'm hungry, I need to have a stick to spear a fish, and I need fish, and I need my legs to walk me over there. So I need access and the practical ability to control these resources. Now, in the law, we would just call that possession. So and economically, we would just call that control. So that's what humans do. So in such a world, all you have to do is worry about technical problems, like worry about technically, how do I get this done? Like, what's the best way to catch fish? Do I make a net? Do I throw a grenade in the water and blow them up? Do I wait for dead ones to wash up on shore? But anyway, so there's different ways to get fish. And so there's no threat to my use of these resources from other people because there are no other people. Now, when we enter society and there's other people, there are advantages of this and there are drawbacks. The advantage is that you can live among other people, and we're a social species, so you can enjoy living with other people, and you can also trade with them. And you can also have division of labor. You can specialize. And so it makes us more efficient. But the problem is now that other people, because they have independent free wills and they have desires, and some of them are not scrupulous, they're a threat to you as well, because now they might take these resources that you could have used in peace before. They might take your fishing, your fishing spear from you. And so what people do is the vast majority of people, being social and having empathy because of our nature and our evolution, we have certain values. We value ourselves. We also value peace, and we value trade, and we value living in a society where people get along and resolve their differences amicably and peacefully instead of fighting all the time. So there's enough of us that want to do that, so that over time we start going to dispute resolution to decide matters of conflict. When there's a dispute, who gets to use this fishing pole, who gets to use this plot of land, who gets to use this body, right? If a guy wants to have sex with a girl's body, whose decision is it? Is it the girl's decision, or is it your decision, right? So over time, communities of people that are roughly civilized and that value each other as well as themselves, they tend to settle upon the natural private law rules that we all know today, right? So that's how law emerges. So the purpose of law, and we call that ownership or property rights. So a property right is more like a societal recognition of who should have possession of a resource. So possession is a factual matter. Who is able to control a resource, and then property rights or ownership or the law is about who should be able to do it, right? So one is descriptive and one is prescriptive. So I think technically speaking, Bitcoin is not ownable, is not a property right, because the nature of Bitcoin is that it's a distributed ledger, right? It's basically a spreadsheet that's got many copies distributed on many people's computers, and it's updated every 10 minutes simultaneously on everyone's computer, right? So to have a property right in your Bitcoin would mean you have a property right in the information in that database, in the blockchain. But that would mean you have property. Information doesn't exist on its own. It's always just the impatterning of an underlying physical substrate, which is what these blockchain databases are stored on everyone's computer. If you're running a node, you have a copy of the blockchain on your computer. It's just the arrangement of the electrons on the transistors on your memory board, right? So the question is, who owns your memory board? And you own it. So technically speaking, as a purely analytical matter, as a juristic lawyer, I would say you don't own Bitcoin. Now, many Bitcoiners think that that's some kind of unrealistic or as an insult or criticism of Bitcoin, but it's not. It's just recognizing the nature of ownership. However, remember, the purpose of ownership and property rights is basically to give you the ability to possess and control a resource that you would have had living alone on an island, right? It's to basically try to recreate that situation by use of law, which is commands and force and rules. Now with Bitcoin, luckily you don't need it because Bitcoin is like something that's impossible to steal. So let me give you another example. Suppose we were all superhuman, invulnerable, immortal robots, and we just had superpowers, and we just couldn't hurt each other, like a bunch of Hulks, like they punch each other, but they can't hurt each other. In that kind of world, basically aggression is impossible. You wouldn't need property rights, right? Or if everyone's a little mini god, you could blink your eyes and conjure up all the house and food and goods you want, and no one could take it from you. You wouldn't need property rights, right? The whole reason you have property rights is in response to scarcity, and that means the possibility of conflict. Possibility of conflict is only a problem because people can physically interfere with your peaceful possession and use of a resource. But if you come up with something that is impossible for someone to steal, like Bitcoin, then property rights are just superfluous. I mean, it is better than property rights in a sense that no one can take it from you without your consent. They just can't do it. Now, of course, they could do the $5 wrench hack, and they could threaten to hit your body to make you give them your key. But so in that sense, Bitcoin is impervious to being interfered with without your consent because of the cryptographic nature of the system.
you.